welcome to Take Your Pick. I'm your host, Chris Puma, and I'm feeling a little hungry. If only there was some kind of food that surpassed all other kinds of foods in its tastiness and versatility. And wait, there is! It's pie! Today I've gathered a panel of people to help pick a pack of precious pies. I knew I was going to slip up on that line. They'll each take turns picking a pie and then telling us a little bit about it. Maybe it's their favorite pie. Maybe it's a pie that has a special place in their hearts. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a historically important pie. We'll see. Once somebody brings a pie to this pie party, well, everybody can have a taste. But when it's their turn, they'll have to pick a different pie to share. But what exactly is a pie, I hear you asking? Well, this one might be a bit more contentious than most, so I'll say right away that if somebody brings something and can't convince me that it's a pie, they'll have to hide it behind a plant and find some other proper pie upon their person. But Wikipedia defines a pie as, quote, a baked dish, which is usually made of a pastry dough casing that contains a filling of various sweet or savory ingredients. I mean, we'll have to think about that, but that sounds pretty right for a first start. Now, I've also got on me here a copy of Rose Levy Berenbaum's excellent Pie and Pastry Bible. Get a copy if this is a thing dear and dear to your heart. It's fantastic. We'll have that in case I need it as a reference to a higher power. Meanwhile, I should let you know who the pie fanciers are on today's panel. Well, in the order they'll be picking pies, and I'm going to get to reshuffle them so that they are in an order that makes this all much easier now. We have from the Tolkien podcast, Pie the Pie Water, it's Jared Pekacek.
Hi.
Pie water.
I wish I'd thought of that. I'm so mad.
From the Op Pies That Have Lonely, it's Nadia Halim.
Hello.
And from the newly reawoken podcast, Dear Reader, it's Pikey Collins.
I wondered how you'd work in the pun. Store-bought is fine.
And of course, as your host, it's Chris Puma, not Piuma. Don't get that wrong. As your host, I will let everyone bring out the best pies before I offer any of my own. And of course, if you're watching this live, say hello. Let us know your thoughts about the panelists' picks. We can incorporate your comments into the show. Literally, that is why we do this live. If your favorite pie doesn't get picked, though, don't worry. We'll give you a chance to bring it up and share it with everybody at the end of the show. Okay, so it is time to begin. Jared, what pie have you brought to our Pies Giving celebration?
I'm going to pick, I mentioned before we started, it was one I'm going to argue about maybe. I'm going to go with that right now so we can establish some terms and parameters and everything. Piroshki, which if you look this up on Wikipedia, the first result you get is this sort of like yeasted, almost like a bun that's full of something. This is not that, because I am not Russian, I am Armenian, and we don't do it that way. Armenian piroshki is pastry. It's a lot more like an empanada than a Russian like yeasted dough thing. So this is something that's obviously part of my heritage. It was a big part of my childhood because it takes a long time to make. If you make enough for a family to eat, they're tiny. They're like that big. So you got to roll out so much dough. You got to cut it all out. You got to fold it up. You got to seal it. You got to cook the stuff. So it's this communal process that you go through making them. We used to have it a lot for like birthdays and things like that. And then you get to like make your own sauce at the table from like a bunch of different condiments and stuff like that. And the filling is normally, for us, it was normally beef and onion. I know you can do it with other savory things, but yeah, there's this little hand pie, and they're so delicious, and I haven't had any in a long time, and now talking about it, I really want to make some. But yeah,
all right, I'm definitely going to allow a savory hand pie as a pie. Is this the way I've got it on the screen? Is that your preferred spelling of Piroshki? Yeah. I've found many different variants as I was just looking it up. And I'm going to look up a recipe, but so you distinguish this from other kinds of sorry. Pop-ups are jumping out at me.
What did you Google?
As I'm just trying to save a ding-dang image. Sorry. So how does it distinguish it? You said a bit about how it is distinguished from other types of similar hand pies.
Yeah. So the actual official version, the canon version of Piroshki, is is yeasted dough. It's not pastry, so it's not a pie at all, really. It looks similar to one, but it isn't one. But the way we make it, and this is a variation that I think is more like the Caucasus region, is a pastry dough. So it is a pie.
The version that I'm seeing here, actually, I can't tell this version that I found of somebody putting up Armenian Piroshki. But what is... What
It
is
is
your
also
favorite,
entirely possible that
what's
this
your
is
favorite
just my family.
filling? Is the other question I had. What is your favorite filling?
We only ever did it with beef and onion, really. So that would be it.
Oh,
So is this meant to be like a meal or a snack?
It is. If you have enough of it, it's meant to be a meal. You have like 3 of them, and
Like,
it's a
how
meal.
big are they?
They're about like that.
Okay.
Probably not that helpful, but probably about 5 inches by 3 inches at the biggest.
Right. So kind of snack size if you just wanted to have like one.
Yeah. Like leftovers the next day. Just like,
Yeah.
Okay, I finally got the picture ready to upload. Sorry about that. Sorry to go out into that massively distracted mode. Oh God, where is it? There it is. Sorry, we're gonna get this all under cover. Did I ask what your favorite fillings are?
Yes, you did.
Okay, sorry. There. Does that look right to you, or is that the other kind?
That is pretty close. I think that might be a different dough than my family uses, but yeah, that's pretty close. They're these little pasty-shaped things.
Nice.
Eric,
Okay.
What is the most unusual piroshki filling that you have ever seen that you would still accept as a piroshki? Or an unusual piroshki.
An unusual one. Oh God, I'm forgetting. There's a little. I don't know if it's a chain. I think there's more than one in Seattle. It's just a Piroshki shop, and they have like all kinds of weird things. And it's been so long since I've been over there because I've been trapped in my house for months.
Right.
I don't know what they have
fair.
anymore. But yeah, they've got. I think they have one that's like peanut butter and jelly or something. It's like,
Okay. Right.
why not?
Why
Fair.
not?
I mean, yeah, I'm looking for the veggie ones for myself after all.
Mhm,
And that
mhm.
could be done. All right, excellent. Well, I'm sorry, everybody else has to strike Piroshki off their list. Nadia, what are you left with for one of your 3 options?
Yes, I am going to go with butter tarts.
Mm.
Yes, the butter tart. Is it too sweet? Yes, it is. That is why it is very small. So butter tarts were. I like butter tarts. I always have since I was little. When I was little, they were a rare treat because they are too sweet.
Do you want to explain
raisins.
Do you want to explain what butter tarts are for our non-Canadian viewers?
Yes,
And
so I was going to get to that. So the butter tart, if you are American, you may be puzzling over what is a butter tart because the butter tart is a uniquely Canadian food. It is considered to be like I looked it up. If you look at the Wikipedia entry, it's sort of it like leads with the idea that the butter tart is in fact the most Canadian of foods, or it is a uniquely Canadian. It is a food that was developed in Canada, and because Canadians have always been like a little insecure about what it means to be Canadian, and do we in fact have a culture of our own? You know, anything like this we tend to seize on and really like tighten our grip on it and wave it around and be like, look, we are unique. We are not Americans. Do Americans have butter tarts? No. There you go. QED. So a butter tart, I mean, it is not like a food that would be unrecognizable elsewhere in the world because it is similar to, there are a lot of like similar kinds of pies and tarts around the world. There's sugar pie, treacle tart, pecan pie. I think shoe fly pie is kind of similar. Basically, it's like you have the pie crust, you have it like a little tart pie crust, and inside you have a very sweet, syrupy filling. It's kind of runny. The difference, and that's the difference between like the butter tart and like a treacle tart or a pecan pie. It's kind of a runny, buttery, sort of caramelized, kind of corn syrup in it. Can have golden syrup. But yeah, I mean, so the thing is, like, for it to be good, they do vary widely in quality. And if you've only had one and it was horrible, I feel bad, but you should maybe try again if it seems like a good idea. Because for it to be good, the crust has to be good. Sometimes you get them and they have like a really thick, lardy, slab-like crust, and that's just not delicious. You have to have like a good, like, tasty, buttery pastry crust, and then the filling, it's going to be very sweet. It's a butter syrup, but it should be really flavory as well, really flavorful as well as sweet. It should have like a really strong butter caramel flavor to it. And like I said, I like raisins. Raisins are traditional. Some people hate raisins in all forms and contexts. I do not. And yeah, so that is the butter tart. And we have like, there's a butter tart festival in like Ontario. I forget where it is exactly now, but some place within driving distance of Toronto in Ontario. There's a whole cultural identity section on the wiki page for butter tarts. The New York Times did a like special section in its dining section a couple years ago on Canadian cuisine, and they featured the butter tarts. And you know, people get emotional about them here, but yes.
My teeth hurt.
I'm not that intense about them, but I do like them.
That would be Midland, Ontario. Midland, Ontario. Go to buttertartfestival.ca or buttertartfestival.ca.
Oh, okay, I have a question, Nadia.
Mm-hmm.
In one hand, I have a Nanaimo bar. In one hand, I have a butter tart. Which one?
Oh gosh, that is a hard choice. You know what? I'm gonna say it depends on the quality. It really does. Like,
That's a very fair answer, because I mean they both are exceptional when they're good.
They are, yeah. I feel like the Nanaimo bar is a bit more of an innovation when it comes to Canadian desserts. Like I said, the butter tart is quite similar to a lot of other sugar pie types of things, but the Nanaimo bar is kind of is a little bit different from, you know.
It's a bizarre Canadian chimera.
And they're both too sweet. It's interesting how, you know, they are foods and they are like intensely
There's something about the butter tart filling that almost kind of coats your teeth. Like,
I was at a convention once that was hosted by 3 British people, but it was in Vancouver, and they tried a butter tart, and the 3 of them had to split the butter tart, and it was still too sweet and too much for them. They are very cloying. Definitely better to have with your coffee, but they are kind of nice as an occasional treat.
Yes. But they are not an everyday food.
Are they tiny? Are they?
Yeah, they're all small.
They're fairly small. Yeah, they should.
They're like, you can get through like 3 bites, like
smaller than your average donut.
Yeah.
All right, that was the Canadian butter tart. So, Mikey, it's your turn. What is going to be your pie of choice?
Unlike the Victorian novels, you're not going to tell me what my choice is and be right every time. But
I know what you're going to pick. Sure. I know what you're going to pick.
Yeah,
go for
I know you do. I'm picking. Anyone who knows me knows that my canonical favorite pie is lemon pie. It doesn't have to have meringue. The meringue is nice, but actually just lemon pie with no meringue is also very delightful. I'm in it for the zest. I'm in it for the zing. Growing up, my mom would always make me lemon pie for like special occasions or just to like do something nice for me. And now whenever I go home, there's going to be like a couple of lemon pies in the fridge. And like, if I happen to go to the fridge to get a glass of milk or something for the first time since walking in the door and I see the pies there, I act surprised. And other people have made lemon pies for me as like acts of friendship or love. And so I just associate lemon pie with that. I remember my mom always made sheriff's lemon pie, like from a box mix. And that's more than fine. That is my preferred lemon pie. My friend Simone once made me one from scratch, and it was amazing because she could really load up on the lemon because I want it lemony. And it was great. I also love like old school diners, and they often have lemon pie, and I rarely get it because those lemon pies often are really mild, really disappointing. It's like there's this custardy like filling that has a hint of lemon and with like a fucking stack of meringue as high as your head. And I'm like, no. I want, when I bite into those lemon pie, I want my taste buds to like squirt in agony. I love it.
All right. Lemon pie brought to you by Sheriff.
There you go.
Yes. I grew up thinking it was sheriff like the law enforcement officer.
That's right, the pie of law and order.
Mm-hmm. It is lawful good pie. No, it's not. It really isn't.
I mean, lemon's a real good pie. And I've had your mother's sheriff lemon pie, sorry, and it's real good. I don't know if I have that much more to say, but it's real good.
After a heavy meal, a lemon pie is almost like a cleanser. Like it leaves your mouth with a nice clean feeling. Like you've just... No. I was about to say, like you've just drunk some Lysol, but that's not right at all.
In a good way.
In a good way, though. Lemony fresh.
I have a tragic lemon pie story.
Okay.
Uh-oh. All right.
When I was small, like 6 or 7, I went to a county fair with my family and ate a slice of lemon pie, and then later in the day threw up for several hours, like was really, really sick.
Oh, no.
And it probably wasn't the lemon pie, but I associated the lemon pie with intense nausea. And it's all my life been one of possibly the only food I can't eat. It's like my Achilles heel of food.
Sure.
And so it's not a personal, judgment against the lemon pie. I just have this conditioned aversion to lemon pie.
Do you like other lemon flavored things, like a lemon starburst or?
I do like lemon. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good old lemons. I mean, I will eat a lemon like it's an orange. So.
Wow. Have you had the sweet lemons? I forget what they're called. The Meyer lemons.
I have not actually eaten a Meyer lemon, but Chris has made me buy them for him sometimes.
Yeah, they're good for cocktails. I also one of my exes used to be a very good foodie and would make a Meyer lemon tart that was just out of this world.
I believe it.
Yes. All right. That is the classic lemon pie, and I guess that means it's my turn to come up with one, and I'm going to be just as obvious. I'm sure Mikey could guess very much what my first, because it is one of the best pies around, and it is so much glare in my eyeglasses, and it is the holiday favorite, the good old pumpkin pie.
Aha.
So one time, this is a long time ago, but when I was very young, which is to say like 19, maybe it was a little older than that, but still, I was dating somebody and we went to a little corner store, a little bodega in New York where I was living at the time. And they had, there's a local brand to the northeast of the US. I guess it's actually everywhere in the US, but it's really bigger in the northeast, I think, called Entenmann's. And they make a pumpkin pie that I was quite addicted to. And I picked up an Entenmann's pumpkin pie and he said, "Great, we can have that later for dessert." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I guess you can have a slice." And indeed, I ate most of that pie that day. Pumpkin pie is just one of the greatest things ever made. I do tend to prefer my pumpkin pies to be a little bit fakey, sort of like the Entenmann's pie, rather than those kind of very gourdy tasting natural pumpkin pies that some people make. I don't know. I don't want that. I do want, and I should add, pumpkin spice stuff. It's cool. I'm fine with it. Give me your pumpkin spice stuff. It's not obviously flavored of pumpkin, but who would want that? It's about the spices and the smoothness of it all. A pumpkin spice latte should be smooth like a pumpkin pie should be smooth. And, even if it's not literally the same mouthfeel. Anyway, pumpkin pie, everybody should have it. It's real good. Okay, yes. We all agree, right?
No. Yes. I'm the dissenting voice here, I think. I hate pumpkin pie so much. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Well, it just means more pumpkin pie for Chris.
I know. I'm certainly not going to kick you out of the party for that, but oh, boy.
It's kind of a divisive pie, I feel like. There are people who will not eat pumpkin pie. I am on Chris's side of this. But
Jared, is it the texture or the flavor or both?
It's the flavor.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, the spices, or are people giving you some of that hippie natural pumpkin pie that tastes like water?
No, it's definitely the pumpkin pie that's got like the that comes in a can, like the comes in a can. It's definitely that. It's just I don't know. I love spices. I love pastry. I guess it's the pumpkin in that specific form. I don't know. I like pumpkin bread. But not pumpkin pie.
Yeah, because I mean, one of my little tiny pet peeves is like, okay, like it's tiresome how people are like hating on pumpkin spice the last few years. It's like, oh, come on, like whatever. But like, also one of the side effects of that is that people think things are pumpkin flavored when they mean that it tastes of like nutmeg and cinnamon. It's like, no, pumpkin tastes like a fucking squash because that's what it is. Like, when you think, oh, it's pumpkin flavored, like, no, it tastes of dessert spices. Like,
I enjoyed Chris's use of the word gourdy to describe the flavor.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't be cursing up a storm on a pie cast. This is like very family times. Anyways.
Well, of course, if anybody is watching and wants to share their opinions on any of the pies that we've been mentioning, feel free to pop them in the chat. But we shall otherwise move on to round 2, where the pies are doubled. All right. Jared, you gave us Piroshki the first time around. What is the second pie for us?
This is extremely specific and something that, as far as I know, you can't get anymore. This is the Starbucks cherry pie.
Ooh.
It was a tiny little pie, like a mince pie, you know,
Yay.
with a cherry filling. And I'm sure it was half preservatives and like corn syrup and stuff, but they were really good. And they were, I used to get them in college. It was like the first time that I could actually like buy anything with my own money. So I would go to Starbucks across the street and just like during a break from class and just get like a little cherry pie and like some Earl Grey or something and just be like, oh my God, I'm an adult. I'm still grown up. So there's obviously a huge nostalgic component to that, but they were really good. I mean, it was like a short crust pastry, so it was very crumbly and sweet, and then the filling was tart and sweet, and it was this perfect balance of everything. I feel like that panda that would only eat Starbucks blueberry muffins. It's that kind of like, yeah.
Now I've gone looking for it, and I finally found what I think you're talking about. But let's see here. I found 2 things actually, and so I need to load them into the dibbly-doo. One of them is not what you're talking about, but you may want to know about it if you haven't seen this before. I've never seen it before. It is this, which is a cherry pie frappuccino type thing.
Damn. Is that a crust? Does it have a crust on the
Yes,
frappuccino?
there's a crust shell on top that the straw pokes through.
I think you just heard Jared.
So that's pretty wild. I don't know what the details are of that. I'll try to look them up, but I believe what you were thinking of was this thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
that's it's very cute, much less exciting than you know what? It looks like that. Well, hold on. Let me double check. There's an Eater article about it. Cherry pie frappuccino. Yes, it was only available in Japan in 2017. This all makes sense now.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I don't think that's something that America would necessarily do. It seems like something people think Americans would do.
Well, it's called American cherry pie after all. Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness. Did we have... Okay, so I've been going to Starbucks ever since, like pretty regularly, ever since I moved to Toronto in 2009. And I don't recall those pies, but every time I'm in the States, if I happen to a Starbucks, it's always like Uncanny Valley because it's 90% the same, but like a few things are different.
Yeah.
So, did we not have those, or are they
they stopped doing it.
Yes.
Like while I was still in college,
Mm-hmm.
they like switched bakeries or something. I don't know what they did, but now they've got this like La Boulangerie sort of branding that's happening. So they don't have it anymore. They've got like other stuff that's probably more real, but I don't want it.
No.
I want that pie.
No. Starbucks will like swap out their food every few years, and it's very irritating because it always gets worse.
I found the problem in my Googling.
Okay.
Technically, I guess. All right. Well, that that looks very cute. I remember seeing them around, I think, but I don't think I ever had one because I've generally not been terribly happy with Starbucks pastries. But what are you going to do? I'm sorry that
if they honor the tartness of the cherry, then it gets a thumbs up from me.
They did.
No, that's very true. Nadia, you had a butter tart. What sweetness are you going to add to that, or will it be something savory?
I'm going to continue with sweetness, and I'm going to go with something that is, I wouldn't say was necessarily a favorite pie, but perhaps an interesting pie to talk about, and it is mock apple pie.
Oh.
Not real apple pie, mock apple pie. Perhaps you have encountered this. It is a pie that is made with the predominant version recipe that you'll find these days, if you can Google it, is made with Ritz crackers. And you put the Ritz crackers, you mix them with like a sugar syrup and a lot of lemon juice and apple pie spices, and you put them in a pie crust with, a covering crust, and you bake it like a pie. So it is basically just a giant blob of carbs with a lot of sugar, but it kind of tastes like, and it has a texture similar to apple pie. So what is this postmodern pie? I mean, is it a stunt pie? Is it a novelty pie? Does anyone really like this pie? Would anyone bake this pie because, they actually wanted to eat it again? I mean, I don't know, but I baked it once when I was a little kid for probably the same reason that everyone does, which is that I came across the recipe and I was like, that's so cool. 9-year-old me was like, I could make a pie that tastes like apple pie with Ritz crackers. And I made the pie, and it wasn't bad, as I recall. And my grandparents were visiting at the time, and I remember my grandfather trying it and making a big deal of, oh my goodness, this isn't real apples. I thought it was real apples, which is, I'm sure he was just humoring me, but it was very impressive to me as a child. So I Googled it a little bit, and it's often sort of people think it must be like a Depression era wartime innovation, like, oh, they didn't have enough apples, so they, used crackers. It does seem to go back earlier. There are articles suggesting that there was it's based on an original from the 19th century when people used like hardtack type biscuits. Michael, you are probably, I think they're called brewis in Newfoundland, like the hardtack, and they use them and make like more, but it seems I have heard more that they're more used in savory dishes these days. I don't know that anyone makes a pudding out of them. I did discover that if you try and Google for hardtack pudding recipes, you get prepper recipe pages. Yes, there are prepper mom recipe pages, and that is something that I learned researching this. Anyway, so yes, the mock apple pie wouldn't really fake you out unless you were eating it without thinking at all, expecting it to be an apple pie. I can see how you could make, rather than it's kind of a disappointing substitute for apple pie. But if you set out to make a tasty pudding type dessert using crackers or hardtack as a base, and then adding, flavorings and sweetening and making it maybe not too sweet, I can see how you could get like a tasty dish out of that. Yeah. Anyway, is.
Yeah,
yes,
mock apple pie. Let me remove the banner there for a bit. You can see it in all its glory. Yeah, I do. My understanding is that it's a 19th century thing. It was made by pioneers, so it is because crackers and such were more readily available than apples. Yes. So it is a sort of poverty choice, but also that it doesn't taste. I mean, you've had it, you've made it. I was watching a video. Emmy Made in Japan, who came up in our cooking shows episode, has a video about making it as part of her Hard Times cooking series, and she was impressed by how much it tasted like apples. So,
do you know what it's like, Chris? You know the Venetian in Las Vegas? You know how it's like surprisingly like Venice, even though it would never actually fool you? And that is kind of pleasurable. It's like that.
So you've had the mock apple pie.
There was a recipe for this in an episode of Highlights, which I subscribed to as a child.
Yes, that might have been where I got it too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you make it yourself?
I mean, my mom helped. Yes. I'll take the glory on that one.
Chris, have you tried mock apple pie?
I haven't. I would if I'm curious about it. I don't like Ritz, but apparently you don't even need to use Ritz. Like they started putting it on their packaging, and that's why we all associate it with them.
Yeah.
Like around World War II, I guess you may have said, but
they kind of adapted it. Yeah.
Yeah, but like it was just made with soda crackers well before Ritz existed. So
I mean,
the crackers,
Nadia,
you don't really taste them.
Nadia
Yeah.
mentioned using hardtack, which in my mind would work really well. Because like the crackers, it's mostly for texture and like they soak up the flavor, right?
Yes.
But, like hardtack, once it gets soaked a little, it has like a really pleasing texture. So,
yeah.
So are there recipes that people make in Newfoundland with hardtack that are sweet rather than savory?
no, I mean, well, I shouldn't be so confident when I say no. There may well be, but like hardtack is primarily used for the brews portion of Fish and Brews.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Now, with that said, I can remember Purity also selling a sweet hard bread, which I never understood the purpose of. So perhaps it was just a strange thing that you would see in the store and be like, "Who buys this? Why?"
Huh. I mean, you might want something a bit sweeter. But on that note, we will switch over to Mikey to see if he has a hardtack based pie for us, or maybe something else from Newfoundland.
Yes. Well, originally it was not going to be something from Newfoundland, but then I remembered I have a better story for this one. So we are going to the motherland. So there are Newfoundland. Many things do not grow well there. In fact, most of the island is entirely unsuitable for agriculture. One thing that does grow well there is berries. And we have a few berries which are not unique to us, but are unknown in most parts of the wider world, one of which is the partridgeberry, which you can find in IKEA as lingonberry because it also grows in Scandinavia. And the partridgeberry tart is one of my favorite things. You will notice as we go along that I have a real thing for acerbic tart sour flavors. The partridgeberry, as well as being known as the lingonberry, is also the mountain cranberry. And on its own, it is just like you've put a tiny black hole into your mouth, kind of sour. Obviously, it needs to be sweetened up a bit, but you want a partridgeberry tart to be quite in your face with its sourness and its tartness. And even if it is pie-sized, it is still called a partridgeberry tart for whatever reason. Normally, they are sort of a larger pie that you can cut pieces of rather than a hand tart. Normally with a lattice crust over the top. They're very dense, like the filling. It's a very dense filling, which means you only want a small piece, but it's also very satisfying to stick your fork through it sideways. I was living in downtown St. John's in the A1C, which is an area code that has like the highest concentration of artists and writers. And I was taking some years off between my degrees. At the time, I didn't even think I was between degrees. I just thought I was done. And working at a hotel overnight and trying to sort of be a writer and an actor in the daytimes. And my good friend Paul lived 2 doors down. And one day I came back to my house and realized I had locked myself out and my roommates would not be coming back for several hours. And Paul walked by on his way to his house and he was like, "Oh, just come hang out at ours until your roommates get back." And Paul is from Labrador and his mother had sent him a care package, a big box with many things, including a partridgeberry tart, which Paul gave me a piece of. And it was great. It was a cold winter day. I was really happy for a nice spot to warm up. And the tart was extremely good because Newfoundland has good partridge berries. Labrador has superior partridge berries.
Now, I have found an image of a partridgeberry tart. It does not have the lattice top, but that was because I wanted to
Maybe
get
that's
people.
just Bob who does it.
Yeah, maybe. But I wanted people to be able to see the sort of texture of it all.
Yeah. It's a little bit like I suppose, like a raspberry pie, but like actually that looks like a raspberry pie, Chris.
Well, that's not what it said on the Googs.
Sure. Partridgeberries, I'm used to partridgeberries being a darker color and not having the little seeds like that, but whatever. It is not sweet to the taste at all. Like it's like a sour cherry kind of flavor almost, or I mean, like like that.
Excellent. Yeah, partridgeberry is real good. That's all I have to say.
Delicious. Michael, would you eat partridgeberry tart? Sorry, I was not.
Mikey, there are chai seeds in that particular partridgeberry tart.
Oh, that explains that.
Which is weird, but there they are.
Okay. You want to get your protein up when you're having that.
Sorry, Nadia, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say that sounds delicious. I also like tarts. So like that tart sweet thing going on. Would you eat the Partridgeberry tart with ice cream or whipped cream? Because it sounds like it would go really
Most
well with
people will take like a whipped or clotted cream kind of a type thing,
that.
possibly some ice cream. I'm real weird in the same way that like the meringue is like I can take it or leave it on the lemon pie. I do not like to put cream or ice cream on my pies. If there is like a nice apple pie at the end of dinner and like there's ice cream being offered, I'm like, no, please. To me, I like ice cream and I like pie. They don't. They kind of detract from each other in my mouth. Like it's still fine. Like it's sugar and fat. It tastes good, but like I prefer it separate. So I always take my Partridgeberry au naturel rather than a la mode.
All right. Excellent. Well, that is a lovely Partridgeberry tart. Not maybe the ingredients are available at your local IKEA or your local Newfoundland. Now does that mean it's my turn again? Oh
Yeah.
no. All right. Well, it's my turn again, and don't accidentally remove myself from the stream. Hello. I'm going to pick something that sort of goes along, I guess. Well, mock apple pie was something that Nadia brought up. And the thing that I'm going to tell a story about, I guess, is sort of like that in that it is also kind of, if you made an apple pie, but you didn't use apples, you used something else. And what you use instead are green tomatoes.
Oh.
Now, this is I guess, reasonably common, I mean, maybe not super common dish in the American South. That is where this is from. But I had never encountered it or even heard of it. But I had a bunch of friends who, when I lived in Portland, who gardened. And at the end of the season, which, can sometimes be weird in the Northwest, I guess, they would often have a lot of green tomatoes. And I would say, give them all to me because I would make pickles out of them, because a pickled green tomato is a beautiful thing. You can also fry them up, of course, because there was that movie that people might remember, but that's fine. They're okay. I did that once or twice. It was all right. But then I saw a recipe. Was it in this book? I don't remember, but it might have been. But it was for green tomato pie. And I thought, well, I'll try it. I was very doubtful about it. I was very unsure. It seemed like the weirdest thing possible because it really was just make an apple pie, but use tomatoes. I was so incredibly trepidatious when I went to have my first bite. It really was like, this is going to make me sick. Like it smelled fine. It didn't smell anything, but it smelled fine. And everything about it seemed right. But it was just such a weird concept to think about a green tomato pie, but with like lemon and sugar and stuff. I was like, this is not right. Anyway, I did finally eat it. It was perfectly fine. It's sort of like what you guys were describing with the mock apple pie. Kind of just tasted like apple pie, but not quite. It same flavor profile, same kind of texture, even with the very firm green tomatoes being like a really good firm but softened through cooking, like a Granny Smith or something in your apple pie. But green tomato pie. It was a bit of a trial to actually have that first bite, but I certainly ate the rest of the pie, not with relish, literally. Even though that sounds appropriate. And I haven't had it again since, and I haven't had it made by an actual proper person for who knows what they're doing and isn't just getting the recipe out of a cookbook, which I would love to do someday. So if there's any place in Toronto to get a green tomato pie, oh, no, there isn't. Okay, never mind.
Well, that just means you need to open such a place.
Well, I can't make it. That's the whole thing. I need somebody who knows how to make it to me.
You delegate, Chris. There are Southerners.
If you are a Southerner living in Toronto, if you are a Southern American who knows how to make a good green tomato pie, and you're living in Toronto, and you can make it without lard in the crust, hit me up. We can make a deal.
You seem to arrive very conclusively at the conclusion that no one in Toronto can make a green tomato pie. What was the reason for that? What came up in Google that made you think that?
Oh, no, I did not search for tomatoes. Okay. It's my experience of having lived here for 10 years of like some things you just can't expect. You have to really hunt hard to get a real burrito. And I don't think it's a green tomato pie or any other Southern delicacy. And maybe there are some places, I believe.
Yeah. Well, we'll put the challenge out to the world via the internet. Toronto.
I'm more than happy to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to try this pie.
Yes,
Sure.
Indeed.
I expect it to look more troubling, just imagining some green tomatoes that have been like I thought the filling would be grosser looking, but no, it looks fine.
I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, the when I made it, it did look a little more like green tomato slices, but that was, still it's that's not too far off from that picture, I guess. I
Question.
think some people make it with apples as well. So
Okay.
No, just if you don't have enough apples, you can bulk them out with green tomatoes. Okay.
yeah, if you don't have enough green tomatoes. Nadia, what was your question?
Did you seed the tomatoes?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
I don't remember. It
'Cause that would
was
be
20
the-
years
the-
ago.
Fair enough. That would be the most un-apple-like. Like I could see just the green tomato itself mimicking apples in the pie, but then tomato seeds would kind of be a giveaway that you were not eating apples.
No, it's true. A lot of the moisture would probably have cooked away, but it's true that the seeds might be there. Although tomato seeds don't make a huge. They're not the world's screamingest seeds. So all right. So that is green tomato pie. Give it a try if you ever get a chance. It's not the scariest thing in the world. That brings us back to round 3. Still everything to play for in this pie festival. And of course, if you are watching this, feel free to add your comments in the chat and we can incorporate them into this and also start thinking about pies that we may not have mentioned for the end of the show. But as we go on, Jared, what is your third and final pie?
It is, we've kind of been dancing around apple pie, so I'm just going to say apple pie.
Yay.
But sugar-free apple pie. Because that's what I grew up eating. It sounds probably worse than it is. It's actually really good. So because there's a history of diabetes in my family, my grandfather has diabetes, my aunts have diabetes, I'm edging that way myself, I think. Here's my medical history. We didn't put a lot of sugar in desserts anyway. So we would make a sugar-free apple pie with just golden delicious apples. And you don't need sugar in an apple pie, it turns out. All you need is a sweet apple that's not going to cook down into total mush and a crust and some spices. And it's really, really good. Especially if maybe it's your first time in the US, you think, oh, all American desserts are so sweet. And then you have this. It's actually, no, it just tastes like actual fruit and not just like you've poured corn syrup into a crust. Not to knock the butter tart mentioned earlier. Which, anyway. But yeah, sugar-free apple pie is it's really, really good. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so glad you specified because I was assuming it was sugar-free apple pie. So Splenda?
No. It just has no sugar. Maybe some lemon zest in it, which is not going to sweeten it, obviously. But yeah, it's almost like just a baked apple without anything on it. I don't know. I feel like it's hard to make it sound really appealing, but it is. You just have to eat it and find out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like apples, and one of the things I like about apples is that there's such a huge variety of them, and because they're so genetically messed up. There's such a world of difference between a Granny Smith and a Golden Delicious. They're entirely different flavors, really. And yeah, I kind of want to experiment now with unusual apple choices, in pie.
Okay.
That sounds delicious.
For heaven's sake, did that work?
I don't know.
It did. Okay, sorry. There was a weird graphics format because I finally found a picture of it, and I was going to pull it up for you. But yeah, let's see. Here we go. And
like an apple pie.
There.
What is that from?
That is from a coffee company. That is a patch that you can buy from Broke and Stoked Death by Coffee. brokenstoked.myshopify.com will have that image if you want to get it. I don't know anything else about them. It was just a great image that I found as I looked for no sugar. I absolutely agree that apple pies are too dang sweet, and I like a tart and less sweet pie. Sugar-free still sounds terrifying, but I would give it a try. Certainly the apple pies that I make, I don't use as much sugar as some might.
Mhm.
And you just don't tell people it's sugar free, because then they'll be like, think it's going to taste like Splenda or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
And someone has just commented with a pie that they're thinking about. We will I'll hold on to that comment for the end, but it does look excellent, and I will share it with the panel
right.
and everybody else then. When we talk about the other pies and pies that we didn't mention, because somebody might mention something like it. There's still a chance to. Nadia, let's find out what your third and final pie
Me.
is.
So, full disclosure, I was thinking of going with apple pie, but apple pie was the one that I expected to be safe. So I did have a second, like a second third choice, which is, I'm going to say, mini chicken mushroom pies, mini savory pies that I make myself. So, I mean, I have visual aids for this. I have this silicone bakeware mini pie dish thing, and I thought that I'm only sad that I only have one of them, because I found it at Dollarama, and they sometimes have things once and you buy it and then you never see it again. But that means that I can only make 4 mini pies at a time. But the thing is, I guess my point here is, I tried making a filling for it with like chicken that's like leftover chicken and mushrooms, and I think I put some sweet potatoes in there as well, and some onions. And really, it's like you take anything that is leftover, or that is like a stew kind of thing, or that is savory, and you put it in a tiny pie. And who doesn't want that for dinner? What could be better than a tiny pie for dinner? It is like the loveliest thing, your own little pie. And this is another, again, with the visual aids, and I was thinking of this when Jordan was talking about Piroshkis, that I do have this cookbook that is called Edible Pockets for Every Meal.
Ooh.
And I found this at a book sale once, and I was like, you had me at edible pockets for every meal. I mean, so amazing. Once again, the idea being just that, you take whatever you were going to eat for dinner, you put it in a flaky crust of dough, or even like a yeasted crust of dough, and suddenly it's just so much more special. Like I honestly, I could eat edible pockets for every meal, I think. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to go with on that, but I mean,
Sure.
tiny pies.
Tiny pies.
They
Well,
make
we
me
don't
feel
have
special.
a picture of your tiny pie, but
No.
in fact, the comment
Any tiny chicken pie, really.
Yeah, and the comment we got is about a chicken pie. So there you go. The Moroccan Bastila. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, with ground or shredded chicken. I don't think that is terribly. Yes, hello. I don't think that's terribly like your tiny chicken pie in some ways, but I'm sure it's similar in others. And this is an image I found on the internet of one. I don't know if that's the same kind that.
It's like a phyllo pastry.
Disconcertingly looks like it's dusted with icing sugar, which would be very wrong.
It is. It is
dusted with icing sugar. Yeah.
You've had that before, Jared?
No, but it showed up on the Big Family Cooking Showdown. Another British cooking show. Yeah, it's dusted with icing sugar and I think cinnamon.
Wow.
And and that's certainly also true.
Cook for every occasion.
Exactly.
I mean,
and
edible pockets, huh? Like
for every meal.
For every meal.
Breakfast, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mikey, are you ready? Shall we move on to you for your final pie?
I wonder if you can guess what it's going to be.
One more note about the Bastila. Bastila? Am I saying it right? I'm not even sure. What will Mikey's final pie be? I'm going to guess it's humble pie.
There is a sign in the doorway of my gym that says, "The humble improve, so stay humble." But I am not going to eat humble pie right now. I am going to evolve into my final form with key lime pie. You may have noticed that I have a thing for tart and sour flavors. Key lime is this it's like after lemon pie went to college and got interesting. I don't remember the first time I had this. This was not a pie that was around when I was growing up. I would have been certainly in my early or even perhaps mid-20s the first time I had it. And I mean, it is similar in some senses. It has the graham cracker crust, so that's different. But the flavor profile of lime in general is something that really pleases me. Like, there's something about the complexity of a lime that is just next level after the straight ahead in your face sourness of a lemon. A lime is still in your face, but there's a lot more going on there. And I love when lime is used in dishes. I love when lime is used as a base in beverages. Key lime pie is just, it's so good. And I still get kind of excited when I see it on the menu somewhere. And it's like, oh, I will have dessert. Thank you. I was recently in the Florida Keys for the first time in my life with a group of friends having a vacation right before everything went to heck. We really timed it perfectly. Literally at the end of February in Florida. We got out in time. But we just had a house rented for a week. And one of my best friends is a really, really good cook and baker. And he made a key lime pie for the group, but it was because it is my favorite pie. That's why he made the key lime one. And it felt very appropriate to be in the Florida Keys, which are the keys of the key lime. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say. Like, my tastes, as I said before we went on air, like, my tastes in pies are like half like 50s Americana and half like Newfoundland folk foodways. So I feel like key lime is kind of like a 1970s housewife's idea of sophistication. But I mean, that's me. So.
All right, excellent.
I like the idea of a lime as a lemon that went to college.
I don't think I've ever actually had a key lime pie, weirdly enough.
Oh, they're good. I mean, if you like that sort of thing.
I think I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it tastes like what you would expect it to. Depending on how it's made, it can be like really, really intense, but it can also be fairly mild. Just like a lemon pie, you know, it's down to how much juice they use.
Yeah, although key limes are a little bit more mild than
normal limes.
The normal lime. So it's a bit like Meyer lemons versus, I guess, it's a bit like Meyer lemons versus, oh, here you go. There's a key lime pie.
Ah, yes.
So pretty.
So green. Green is a good color for pie. If it's supposed to be. All right. Yeah, key lime pie. Get it today. Key limes themselves, really fussy. Let's see. I am going to have to do my last one. I guess I haven't been listing off what we've been doing every time like I normally do. Oh well. My final pie. I had a few different options, but I'm going to go with. I think Mikey could probably guess what I'm going to do, but I'm going to go for a. Let me make myself big. I am going to go for a pie choice that is. I'm picking because too many people get it wrong. The correct type of pie is rhubarb pie.
Yes.
Not strawberry rhubarb pie.
Yes.
Because two reasons. First off, strawberries are awful. Okay, I have an allergy or something, but they make my mouth itchy and I don't like strawberries. Fine. Not everybody agrees with that, and people seem to enjoy strawberries, and I don't want to harsh that. But the whole point of a good pie, as Mikey has demonstrated time and time again, pie and pie again here, is that it is tart. It is a tart smack in the face, or a spicy smack in the face if it's a pumpkin pie. But in this case, yeah, you want that lovely, what I like to call fizzy celery. If you've never eaten raw rhubarb, I recommend just trying it once. Just have a little slice. It's fine. It won't kill you. But yeah, because it's got this sort of effervescent feeling, and it's very tart, and it has that celery texture. Rhubarb pie is just gorgeous. Rhubarb is a fantastically complex and lovely flavor, and it should go with everything. There's a bit of rhubarb pie, and I don't believe that one is contaminated with the dreadful strawberries. But look at that. Who wouldn't want that? And if it's a little too tart for you, sure, put ice cream on it. A nice vanilla ice cream isn't going to do you wrong, but you don't need it. It's brilliant. Just enjoy it. Just live a little. Rhubarb it up. It's going to be great. Rhubarb is the best. I'm just saying, it's the best. It's the best in everything. And if you got too much rhubarb, which you can't, just turn it into a compote and put it on top of that ice cream. It's so good. You can do a million things with rhubarb, but mostly eat it.
Not the leaves, though, just the stems.
Yeah.
Not the leaves. Those are poisonous, but you can't buy them in a store because, again, poisonous. You can buy other poisons in a store, I suppose. But anyway, rhubarb pie is what I'm going to call for the last pie.
It's funny, Chris, because I was going back and forth between key lime and rhubarb for my final choice. So I'm very glad that rhubarb made it in under the wire. You know that like another name for rhubarb in a lot of places around the world is pie plant.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's like a
pie
Midwest
plant.
sort of thing, isn't it? I mean, Midwest in the U.S.
It could be Midwest. I thought it was like a Russian thing, but I don't know. Like, all I know is that back home, like there are lots of like rhubarb is very common, and there are lots of abandoned communities. And I was always told growing up that you could tell if there used to be a settlement here because you'd find rhubarb just growing. Because even after the houses have fallen down and everything, rhubarb just grows. Rhubarb will grow forever. Like rhubarb is essentially a delicious weed.
Yes. When I was growing up in the Ottawa Valley, everyone just had rhubarb growing in their yard, and we used to, like, as kids, cut it and eat it dipped in sugar, like just eat it like that. And I still think of it, and like Michael, you could probably relate, as just like a thing that grows in the yard, and you just go out and cut some. And so the idea that you have to go to a farmer's market and pay like $8 for a little bundle is just so strange. It's like buying dandelions or something.
Also, rhubarb is forced in dark rooms, like because you just want the stalks, like when it's commercially grown, and it grows so fast you can hear it growing.
Whoa!
It's very unsettling.
There's a region of England called the Rhubarb Triangle where they focus on rhubarb production, and that is where it grows. They've excelled at that. Yeah, rhubarb. It's real good. There was some rhubarb that grew sort of by the street outside of my apartment in Portland when I lived there, and I never picked it because road rhubarb seems iffy. It probably would have been fine. Also, like, I'm not a real good plant spurt, so if it could have been not rhubarb, even though it super looked like rhubarb.
Could have been Swiss chard or something.
Wow.
Deadly Swiss chard.
Sparkling Swiss chard. All right. Those were our 3 rounds of pie picks that we've brought to Pies Giving. Now, what have we learned? Let's have before we roll out onto some other pies, and before, if anybody is watching this who wants to share another pie that we didn't mention that we should have, and the rest of us talk about the other pies that were on our minds, is there anything that we've learned today, except that pies are very, very good? I will say the only really contentious pie that came out, I think, was the Piroshki at the top of it. And even that wasn't that contentious, especially once, because mini chicken mushroom pies are definitely pies. It's in the name. Yeah. And a hand pie, yes. So that seems interesting that y'all didn't push it. There was no, I mean, I had thought about doing this myself, but there was no call for pizza.
I was thinking of asking shepherd's pie, is it a pie? But,
Well, that's a good question. If it has a crust, then probably. But the shepherd's pies that I'm familiar with don't.
Is a quiche pie?
Is a quiche
Sorry?
pie? Yes.
Yeah.
Quiche is an aggressive egg custard pie.
Yeah, aggressive.
Isn't it in like old American cookbooks, quiche is listed as like onion pie or something?
Yeah.
Because it's got like onions, but also the custard, so they just call it onion or egg pie or something like that. It's not called quiche because that's the foreign word. But...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I learned what a piroshki is.
Yeah.
I did not know that word or concept before.
I mean, it's the same as pierogi, cognate wise.
I figured that there was some relation going on there, but like clearly they're different enough. Like they are food pockets. And again, I am definitely here for food pockets, edible pockets, hot pockets. But yeah.
It's always interesting to think about there's every culture has a hand pie kind of thing. And then the sort of the gradients between dumpling all the way up to Piroshki like hand pies or pasties or whatever else you want to, empanadas or things like that. Like, you just sort of soften them and start boiling them. And then you get down to just dumplings and wontons and things like that. And those seem like very different foods, but they're on a continuum.
It's a spectrum.
It's a spectrum. Indeed.
It was like I was saying you could also do take your pick on fried doughs of many lands, because everyone has their favorite fried dough thing.
But is there, like, I love a fried dough, but they're all kind of the same to me. Like,
It's true.
funnel cake's a bit different from elephant ears, I'll grant you, but not a lot. All right. Well, that is a thing or two that we thought about pies. I'm sure we're all desperate to leave and pick up some and gobble them down.
Yeah.
But in the meantime,
A little bit.
a little bit. We've got a pierogi place next door. I think that's what lunch is. Meanwhile, let's talk about the pies that we didn't have a chance to mention. And of course, if you're watching this and you want us to talk about a pie, or you want to shout out and rep for your favorite pie, please leave it in a comment. And a comment to this video. But yes, bring out your dead pies. Jared, what other pies were on your mind?
The only one I had left is strawberry rhubarb.
Shame.
Strawberry rhubarb is fine. It's a good pie. I too prefer plain old rhubarb, but I like strawberries. So
The way my mom makes it, it's the rhubarb that grows in their yard is actually green, so it's a really interesting looking pie.
Oh, all right, that's
and
good.
It tastes really good. So leave me alone. Leave me alone.
I like strawberry rhubarb
I love
pies.
strawberry rhubarb.
They
I don't
smell
think I've
really
ever had
good.
a great rhubarb pie.
Was there anything else you were thinking?
No, just the one.
That's enough. Okay. Mikey?
oh,
Sorry, Nadia. Nadia,
Yes.
I forgot that we're not going in a circle this time.
Hey, I mean,
I'm sorry. I should have said, hold on. Jared, you had Piroshki, Starbucks cherry tarts, and sugar-free apple pie. And that's what you've added to it. Nadia, you brought to the party butter tarts, mock apple pie, and some mini chicken mushroom pies that you made yourself. What else were you thinking about?
well, like I said, maybe real apple pie, cherry pie. I don't have anything to really exciting to say about, although it probably is my favorite pie. Other pies that could have been brought to the table for discussion: mincemeat. Should it be made with meat? Can it be made with? I mean, originally it was made with meat, so it's a very odd pie. Things like phyllo pies, like spinach pie, was something that didn't really come up. And those McDonald's pies, what is the deal with those? They're hand pies, I guess.
Yeah.
They look more like an egg roll than a pie,
Excellent. Yes. I don't think there was meat in the mincemeat pie. I think it had suet in it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Which is,
I guess it could have had meat in it.
Had meat.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm looking it up on the wiki now, and you're right. There were meats in them originally. I do love a mincemeat pie that is not meaty.
a veggie. I mean, I think that's more
Most of them are
standard
these days. Yeah.
in our time. Yeah, they are delicious.
They're so good. Mikey.
Yes. I will say the only other pie that I have a bunch, but the only other one that I had like a story to tell about was a mince pie, mincemeat. I was living in Ireland, and my first job after my undergraduate was there, and the company, it was at a post-secondary institution. The Christmas party had mulled wine and mincemeat pies, and I always assumed mincemeat pies were like ground beef. So I was shocked when I learned that no, they're spicy fruit. And it was my first time having that and my first time having mulled wine. And now they are like holiday essentials to me. I cannot imagine a Christmas without both those things. So thank you, Ireland, for giving me those. Other things, I had my first taste of sweet potato pie when I was visiting my friends in DC last Thanksgiving. And it was actually real good. I really liked it.
No, it's the bastard cousin of pumpkin pie.
Chris just doesn't like sweet potatoes.
I don't like sweet potatoes either. They're kind of
more for me. Raspberry pie. I have a very specific memory of buying a raspberry pie when I was doing my master's degree and bringing it home, and me and my roommate smoking up. And this was one of my first times ever like getting high, and I ate the entire goddamn raspberry pie in one go. Let's see. Apple pie, obviously a classic for a reason. Pumpkin pie, wonderful, but I knew Chris would take it. I have a hot take on your McDonald's pies. They suck because the crust sucks. Pie, the filling is very important, but if the crust is bad, it's a no-go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Treat them. They're cheap though, the McDonald's pies.
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't say no. And when I was a kid, I used to like to get one with my meal when we would like drive the 2 hours into the city and like have our like twice yearly, like we managed to convince mom to stop at McDonald's.
All right.
It was
excellent.
more often than that.
Michael.
We got McDonald's like once a month.
I have a question for Michael,
Mhm.
which is seal flipper pie.
Oh my
Oh
god.
yeah, I thought you were going to mention that one.
Okay. All right. It's
was that?
wonderful. Seal
was
flipper.
Seal flipper pie.
Okay.
You heard those words.
Yes.
I heard
It-
eel
it is-
flipper, which made it
Oh.
weirder.
Yes. It is what it sounds like. Seal is really good. It's a very dark, like it's almost black meat, and it has like it tastes kind of. It made me think of it's like the squid ink pasta. Like it tastes vaguely of the sea, but it's also like a very rich, dense, like red meat. So it's really interesting, and like if it's prepared well, it is extremely good, extremely rich, but extremely good. And I am very happy to have it. It's a bit difficult to get a hand on, and it is controversial because even though there are lots of other much larger and worse abuses of animals that go on and outside of every North American city, people do not like us killing and eating seals.
The seals are not endangered. They're not treated any worse than anything else.
They live wild until they're killed, which is more than you can say about the ham in your sandwich.
Exactly. So
Wikipedia has the flipper pie, and the picture is very, very troubling. I don't know if it's very dark and Lynchian.
oh my.
I've never had cause to look at the Wikipedia article, so I don't know how accurate that picture is.
Oh god. All right. It's just very underexposed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's literally
You kind of have to show it to us now.
The pie itself doesn't
Also-
look off-putting. The picture is off-putting.
the picture looks like a chicken. Like a roast
Yeah, it does.
chicken. I'm not going to bother, but you can look that up later. Yes.
It's just some like Nero de Sepia like ass like meat. Like
Yeah. No, the picture, it has nothing to do with it in the,
Okay.
in terms of the
It
picture.
was-
It's just a badly taken photo.
Yeah,
That's
it's
all.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So those were your choices. I offered, in addition to your lemon pie, partridgeberry pie, and key lime pie, I offered pumpkin pie, green tomato pie, and rhubarb pie. A few other pies that were on my mind, some of which come directly from this book. One of which is a cranberry apple pie, which is one of my big, I think both Nadia and Mikey have had it when I've made it from this book. It's a really terrific and not too sweet version of an apple pie. Obviously, the cranberry cuts that tart. There is also in here a deep dish blueberry cranberry pie recipe, which the author claims is the first pie recipe to appear on the internet. This seems unlikely, but it's a good story. So
hard to
that's
disprove, too.
fine. I also once had a grape pie, and that was pretty good. It's like made of green grapes. It was pretty good. The other one that I wanted to that I nearly went with was vegetarian pot pie, which I sometimes make. It's with tofu. It's very good, and it's very nice and gloppy and very filling and satisfying. And it's nice, and I haven't made it in ages. And the other thing is something that isn't actually vegetarian, but it's something I grew up with as a kid, which were those dirt cheap convenience store fruit hand pies.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the brand was of those or something?
No.
Fruit
In
hand
the same
pies.
pie family as the McDonald's pies, I feel.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't warm. I guess you could eat them up if you were crazy, but
The ones we didn't ever buy them. People gave them to us for some reason. They're individually wrapped.
yeah, they were
like-
individually wrapped. You could individually buy them.
Yeah.
A friend of mine sort of had the dream of basically being able to come up with your own filling and just sort of injecting them and heating them up and then having them. And so I more or less made that happen based on a recipe, I think, from the Pie Bible, but it was okay. But it was a lot of work, and it's not as good as just going to the store and getting this like cheap ass, nasty ass, yummy thing. So those pies also have a sweet place in my heart. They are just pure glop on the inside. It's all nasty. But
It's
those
like
are some
cornstarch.
yeah, absolutely, just glop. Those were some pies. Pies are delicious. Cakes are not nearly as good. Pies forever. Cakes, if you have to, it's fine. They're not the worst.
Are there audience
but, like,
pies?
The only audience pie was the one that we shared earlier of the
Oh, I
Bastilla.
see. Okay. I see.
Which sounds very interesting. Which is a shame. I would have loved for more audience members, but it's Labor Day weekend, right? So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so there might not have been as many people, and that's why we did this very simple episode about a lovely dish called pies. So, on that note, thank you to the people who have watched this. Thank you to people who may watch this in the future and get excited about pies. You can still leave comments. I'll see them, and it'll be great. And then we will see you next time on Take Your Pick. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Mikey, oh dear, for joining me. That's a terrible way to end the show. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Eat pies where you work or play.
I can't believe I forgot about seal flipper pie. I'm a failure.
I guess we should have mentioned pasties or something like that specifically too.
I was absolutely thinking about them twice.
I think
What
there's
about,
also
what about cod tongues? Do they go in a pie?
No. just a flat no.
I think
Those
there's
have
also
to be fried.
a recipe I made once for a macaroni and cheese pie that came out quite